I think that might be a little loud for background music.
Okay. You want to sit and then we'll...
And then we're just going to cut at the beginning? Or should I start?
No, just sit. Sit and then we'll... Cool. Hey everyone, welcome to the first iteration of Having Lunch with Ben and Zach. I think kind of the second trial run. We were saying how we tried last week, just figured out some of the kinks in terms of lighting, talking, music in the background. Hopefully this runs a bit smoother, and kind of the idea of this is just we're going to have some good food. Today we got some nice sushi, tea, eating a nice bagel, got some crunchy chickpeas.
Of grocery stores.
Whole Foods is a wild place. It really is intimidating how much money you could just run, because everything is so good and it's so expensive. And
by the way, how do you think the acquisition of Whole Foods by Amazon has influenced how they run it all?
Yeah.
Do you notice differences for yourself in terms of going?
I find that it makes the store a little more palatable for me, because I'm like, I'm going to get some kind of discounts here, which you do get with Prime, but it's not that much. But I think the idea is they're trying to pitch this vision of consumers, especially as we move into good tea, right?
Yeah,
it's Trader Joe's tea. But
as
the real pinnacle of grocery stores. I like Trader Joe's a lot better, but I think Amazon is. There we are. I think Amazon's trying to pitch this idea of just futurism, where you could just access everything through it. And I imagine in 10 years, people will get most of their groceries home delivered. I just imagine that will be the case. And so they just want to position themselves there.
Amazon's working super hard at doing that right now. It's just the delivery time to get things fruit and produce generally, it's just not up to par yet, you know?
Yeah, it's a little early, but you know what?
This is for sure a chopsticks one.
That's a chopsticks one.
I went for that with my hands, but this one's a little
we got the chopsticks, may as well use them.
Yeah.
So anyway, our opening segment today is to talk about. This is a nice song to start off. It will chill down a bit. It's a Two Cellos playlist. So opening segment today is talking about. This is good.
I like that.
Is who we'd like to talk to, converse with, maybe have on the podcast. I guess we'll first go through our list, maybe one by one, of who's alive, and then we can talk about not alive people. Maybe talk about our methodologies a little bit.
Before we get into the individual people,
yeah.
What was your kind of starting point in terms of making the list? Where was your head at?
Yeah. So the first place where my head was at, this is something we also talked about briefly, was English language ability. Right? Are we doing with the dead people? I was we're already taking this leap where we're talking to dead people, so I feel it doesn't matter what language they speak or where they're from. I'll be able to communicate with them. But for the people who are alive, I basically limited it to native English speakers or people who I'd be able to actually converse with, right? Because having Xi Jinping on this podcast would be fantastic, but if you told me there was also a translator and it was then it would maybe be a little less exciting. So I think that's where my head was at starting off for the alive people.
Okay. So
what about you?
For the alive people, I started making my list. It's just who would I enjoy? Who do I think I would enjoy the conversation with most? And then, as I started doing it, I ended up having too many of a similar type of person, so to speak, people in the same industry or people kind of doing similar things. So I had Drake and Kanye West on my list, and it's just in terms of doing a top 5, I definitely thought there should be kind of some variance, a little different people, different conversation topics, different points of interest. So I kind of broke it down by category and identify things I like to talk about, and then the person I would like to most talk about that thing with.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's a very smart way of doing it.
So
a lot more methodical than I did.
I did music, art, food, athletics, and politics as my top 5 my top 5 conversation topics.
Interesting.
I think those would be things I'd like to talk about.
I think those are all good things. I think mine would probably be pretty similar. I'd probably combine.
Business would be higher though, right?
I would put business higher, and I would put some math, science, physicist person, maybe evolutionary biologist on there. Probably combine the music and art for me.
Yeah. I just think they're different is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's also just like recently that's kind of just been like a big point of interest for me. Like it's kind of just like where I'm at mentally.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But in terms of your first person, who did you go with?
So my first person, I went with Elon Musk,
Okay.
and I think for me, in a lot of
It's been a
ways,
very volatile time for him.
it's been a very volatile time. And I put him here not because I think he's the smartest person, nor because I think he's the best businessman, nor do I think he's probably the biggest visionary of our time, but of all of those categories, I think he's probably the one person that like combines the intersection of those things really well, and also has like a really good sense of humor, and like would be like a pleasure to talk with. Like, Stephen Hawkins is dead, but like he's smarter than Elon Musk, obviously. But like,
well, smart to challenge.
word. Yeah. Okay. Yes. That's true. But maybe let's talk about like hypothetical pure IQ. So like Elon Musk doesn't have the highest pure IQ, but I think he does have a really interesting vision for the future, and like I don't think Tesla stock is worth anything near what it's worth, but like I would love to talk with him about how he views Tesla stock, how he views all these different companies, and then I'd like to talk to him a lot about Neuralink.
That's like super fascinating.
And I think he's just involved in a really meaningful way in a lot of, and SpaceX, right? He's dealing with these subjects. And someone else later on my list is also in a similar space, but he is at the forefront of these industries, right? The future of transportation, right? Whether it's going to be tunneling or something else, he's really thinking about these types of things, and he has like the coolest job. He's like CEO of like this futuristic car company and space exploration, and he's thinking about Neuralink, and he's thinking about transportation.
I personally like the move that they've done recently in terms of like pivoting towards being more of a sustainable energy company, rather than like a car company, so to speak, with Tesla. Like it seems like they're putting like more of a focus on like the technology aspect, which I think is probably the right way to go, because it kind of just broadens their market and like what they can do in the future.
Yeah, I think they needed to do that in order to keep the valuation up and not be treated like a car company, right? They're one of those companies that's like, oh, we're a tech company. Right, kind of like what WeWork was doing. So I think there's still a very inflated valuation there for Tesla, but from a marketing and PR standpoint, and then also just like from an abstract perspective, right? Tech is definitely a higher payoff for them if they like are the first to autonomy, or they have the best battery cells. Right? They bought Solar City, which I think was a bad acquisition, but given that they did the acquisition, they really feel like they probably have to make the most out of it.
You've also got an interesting perspective on just like the future in terms of cars. Like you really think that like self-driving cars are going to be a factor soon, right?
Yeah, I really do.
Do you think Tesla's the leader in terms of that? And would that be something to talk to Elon about?
Yeah, I definitely think so. So I'm a big optimist generally when it comes to technology things, but specifically with autonomous vehicles. I very closely follow what's going on with all the market leaders, specifically Waymo. I think they are by far and away in the lead.
I don't even know that one.
So Waymo is a subsidiary of Google. They're in Phoenix right now. They operate almost 500 vehicles, fully autonomous as of 2020. They have, or as of really November 2019, they have no safety drivers at all. So the app is called Waymo One. There's a great video, we could link to it in like show notes or something, of just like a guy getting in the Waymo car, and it just like drives him around for 7 minutes, and it's just very cool. It's very sleek.
Is it like being used as like an Uber type service?
Exactly.
In Phoenix?
Being used exactly like an Uber type service.
What's their price point?
The price point is lower than Uber and Lyft.
Like significantly?
Probably about 75% at this time.
75% of the price?
Of the price, yeah, so cheaper.
But cheaper by 25% then.
Cheaper by 20%, yeah.
That's like pretty sizable.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy, honestly.
Yeah, and they could get it lower too. I mean,
and isn't that what like Uber really needs to have a sustainable business model?
Yeah,
they're losing a lot of money.
As does Lyft. So this is a lot we can talk about in terms of how those business models are going to evolve. I think the only way, not the only way, but the way that you and I and probably most people in America are going to be transported around in 20 years is probably going to be by some type of service like Waymo, that or Uber or whatever it is, where the cars are driving around, and then you just press call of the car, it comes, picks you up, drops you off, like totally frictionless. And most people, I imagine, will not own any cars, and there will be no need to. Right, and it will change a lot of industries. Right, it will completely revolutionize the parking industry, which is like a massive industry in the United States. Obviously, trucking.
In New York City, like very particularly too.
Massive.
Yeah.
Complete redesign of cities. We're probably looking at massive government infrastructure. Yeah. Lots more space. Government infrastructure spending. Will we see redesigned cities? Will the government buy a bunch of autonomous buses and trains? Right? It's crazy that the New York City subway right now is like a person like pulling the lever. Like those types of things probably we won't see in 20 years. And so there's going to be a lot of development and a lot of spending in that area.
So my dad and I actually recently had like a conversation about his perspective on what the future of, I guess about the acquisition time of self-driving cars.
Yeah.
And he said, so he tried to use like a comparables type example.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what is a similar type like transportation technology that has like enough like or like the same like infrastructure requirements, the same like And the example
horses to cars. Did he use that?
Hmm?
Did he use horses to cars?
We actually were thinking airplanes to cars.
Oh, okay.
And we'll not necessarily planes like Wright Brothers planes, like planes like jet engine, like creation of the jet engine and having that technology be feasible to like widespread acquisition or widespread like use of planes like a normal mode of transportation. So the points that he made were, or I guess the points that we kind of came to together, because like this was like a very kind of like Socratic conversation. Like he was really just like asking questions, trying to like figure it out. And he said, or I guess we said that right now, let's say the technology to develop self-driving cars is 2/3 of the way done.
Yeah. Okay. I would say like 99.8%.
Really, to be done and used like broadly.
The only things that are being worked on right now are what are called edge cases.
Okay.
Right. So if you're in Phoenix, it's a regular day, sunny outside, not like anything crazy, no like construction going on, nothing, no like accidents or like police, moving people. Like the car will drive 100% of the time, fully fine, way better than a human driver. What's being worked on now are more edge cases. So really bad weather, right, where radars and cameras might have some trouble, right? If there's if there's snow, if there's hail.
Phoenix is probably a great starting point just because of the consistency.
Exactly. Yeah. And then things like construction and having human beings that are saying like go this way, go that way, physical stop signs. That kind of stuff is problematic. Like right now, the cars can like look at traffic signs and stop signs, and some of them are even Phoenix is even specifically equipped some of their new like equipment and some of the new traffic signs that people hold up so that they can be sensed by the driverless cars. But that, right, if you roll out to New York and a street's being repaved and there's like a physical person there saying like stop, start, whatever, it's very hard for the car to know what to do. And so that's what's being worked on right now. And right now the solution is, well, in a lot of cases there's a safety driver in the car. They just take over, very easy. But probably in the future what we'll see is Google or Waymo or Uber or whoever it is will have like a big back office somewhere with like 100 or 1,000 people, whatever it is, per X number of cars. And then
there's going to be like an alarm and it pops up on someone's screen.
It's going to pop up on someone's screen. They'll have like a little joystick and they'll like do whatever needs to be done.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's probably what will happen. And it's one of those things that 5G is really going to be necessary for, because you just need that kind of speed when you're dealing with cars.
So it has to be just like super instant.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like, Uber and Lyft were not going to take off until you had 4G, because I wasn't like, if you had 3G, it just was like really, really hard to use. Like you couldn't stream anything at all. And it just was like too slow. And so, or Bird and Lime, right? Like these kind of apps would not be able to take off without the next evolution of speed for these phones. And so I think driverless cars, among other things, will be some of the stuff that are really 5G enabled technologies.
Is it still moving?
I think we're still good. I think it's just, you know,
Yeah, it looks frozen and like kind of dark.